Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the finale of round 5 of the My Favorite LJN tournament. So, round 5, part 3, we are looking at the last 4 matchups of round 5. Now, 10 matchups altogether here in round 5. As I said in the last video, I've been talking about 5 figures moving on to round 6. I've been messing that up. Because we've had 320 figures in this tournament, I'm so used to 7 rounds in all of these tournaments, and round 6 usually having either 4 or 5 figures in the what I classify as the semifinals, round 6, and it just didn't play out this time. So we actually have 10 figures being pushed into round 6 in this tournament. So I guess, what is that, your quarterfinals? Is that what you're referring to round 6 as in this tournament? So yeah, so round 6 is not your last 5. We're actually gonna have 8 rounds in this tournament, so we get an extra video. That's something. Even the last 2 videos with 3 matchups per video, we were still going 40 minutes per video. So I think by the time we get to round 7 and we are only looking at 1 matchup with the 3-man finals, or in this case round 8 with the 3-man finals, I still think that 1 matchup is going to be a 40-minute video. So I'm going to try and get that to like a 20-minute video, 25 if I really have to stretch it out, but I seriously think that thing's going to go 30 plus minutes. I'm really going to struggle to try and find an answer as far as who my winner is going to be for this tournament. A lot of great options, so not a lot of information to put out prior to today's videos. So we're going to just dive right in and pick the names for today's matchups, and let's get started. All right. So first matchup, we will start off with Nickel and Dime, and he will square off against Bruiser Brody. Of course. Next matchup, the Ultimate Warrior, and that is the Hogan variant. Move these over. All right. Ultimate Warrior is going to square off against that's a good match. Upgraded King Kong Bundy. All right. Next up. Time I freaking talk, my tags go flying. I hate that. All right. Barry Windham. God dang it. What did I just knock over? Okay. And Barry Windham. Oh. Barry Windham squares off against Colonel Mustafa. Oh man, that is a good one. So that leaves 2 names remaining, and that is Sorry. My tags went flying everywhere. Alright, Alright, last matchup is Animal Black, and he will square off against Andre Blue and Red. I want to say I know who's going to win that, but maybe not. The Barry Windham versus Colonel Mustafa, possibly. The Warrior versus Bundy, I guess. Bruiser Brody, I mean, that's probably like the only one that I probably have a guaranteed answer to, but 3 out of 4, I think I have a general idea, but the fourth one is iffy. It's probably going to go back and forth, but let's go ahead and pull the figures, and let's start talking about them. All right, man, so keep these tags from shooting everywhere. Just pulling these figures off the shelves, man. These are some really good figures, and yeah, I'm gonna have a lot harder choice than I initially thought. At least let me knock out this first matchup. We said Nickel and Dime squaring off against Bruiser Brody. This one is pretty much an obvious. There goes my tags. Pretty much an obvious one. Not really something I'm going to have to go back and forth on this one. This one is pretty evident. Bruiser Brody on this one is a no-brainer. But I'm not just simply going to say, hey, Bruiser Brody wins. Bam, let's move on. I, at the very least, want to give viewers the opportunity to get one last glimpse of the Nickel and Dime Nikolai Volkov figure, because again, 5 rounds for his inaugural introduction into the My Favorite LJN tournament. 320 figures in, one of the last 20 figures standing. Nikolai Volkov, the original, my very first LJN. I've said it 1,000 times. I will talk about it 1,000 times more. It's a special piece for me. And getting a really perfect custom out of it. There was actually a Mike Stiers custom with like a built-on USSR jacket that I really wanted, and I really should have bought it way back when I had the opportunity. I think that custom would have actually done really, really well in this particular tournament, so I'm kind of disappointed I didn't pick that up now, but this version right here, awesome piece. And this, I didn't grow up watching Nikolai Volkov in the 80s, obviously, but I do remember vaguely going back and kind of watching like some old tape and seeing Nikolai Volkov after the fall of the Soviet Union and having Nikolai and kind of like tag team with like Jim Duggan and stuff. I vaguely remember that as a child. So kind of going back and watching, videos, and I'm like, you know what? That kind of sparks old memories a little bit. So maybe I did remember that part a little bit. But I definitely kind of remember this look, especially with the $1 Million Corporation. So getting this was so integral, and adding it to the collection, important. So adding Nikolai Volkov, seeing him go this far into the tournament, I think this is the last. So the last 2 figures for Mark Hackenberg in his last video was the King Kong Bundy, and here the Nickel and Dime that wipes out all of the Mark Hackenberg figures from the tournament. But man, his figures just did so extremely well, and it's a shame that we don't get to see any more of his pieces, but 5 rounds, an incredible run. Nikolai Volkov, one of my favorite figures. Great run, love it. But as I said, two-time LJN tournament champion. When I had roughly 130 figures. I really don't remember the exact number way back when. And then I followed it up, less than a year later. It was the same year, same calendar year. And I was somewhere around 180, 200 or so figures. Let's just round it off, call it 200 figures. And he repeated as champion. And in that tournament, that second tournament, there were no freebies. Literally every single battle he went, every single battle he had was against an absolute elite LJN figure. So it was an absolute deserving a victory in that second tournament. So you know what? Having him move on to round 6, it's a no-brainer. 8 rounds this time. So far, 3 tournaments. So 7, and then so back-to-back 7 rounds winners, and then the 5 rounds here gives him 19 rounds of participation in 3. Obviously, makes him with 2 victories. Makes him the longest tenured or the most active participant in an LJN tournament. So with 19 rounds of participation. So that's pretty freaking awesome. And that's another highlight. When we talk about wanting to retire past LJN winners from the tournament and not utilizing them in future tournaments, that's another reason why I don't want to do that, or why I've considered not doing that. Well, this figure won once before, scrap him, don't add him in the tournament again, give another figure a chance to win. It's not just about having that figure potentially repeat as winner, but it's also, I like that part. I like that aspect of getting to see them, appear in multiple rounds. Like saying, well, this figure appeared in the first, 5 rounds the first time, and then they appeared in 3 rounds the second time. Well, this figure appeared in 6 rounds the first time, 6 rounds the second time. Well, so they say, well, they had 12 rounds of participation. This figure had 8 rounds of participation. So I like that aspect, if that kind of makes sense. Definitely a highlight piece, and he's going to make his 6th round of appearance for the 3rd straight tournament. Next battle. Oh man, this is going to be an absolute elite match. What was it, the last video, or was it the first video? I don't remember if it was 5-1 or 5-2. We saw, I think it was the last video, 5-2, where it was King Kong Bundy from Mark Hackenberg Custom versus Series 1 Hulk Hogan Original. So you kind of see a sort of repeat match right here, in essence, because the custom from Wrestling Writer, the reason I've always loved this figure is that it's a Hogan Warrior hybrid figure. It's a Hulk Hogan figure, right? But you add on that Ultimate Warrior head, real Ultimate Warrior head sculpt, perfect hair. You got the perfect face paint. You got the absolute perfect boots, okay? Perfect hair, perfect boots, awesome upgrade paint scheme, all that. So you mix that in. You've got that perfect Hulk Hogan fighting pose. It's 2 characters in one. And I could see a figure like this, and maybe even a Series 1 Hulk Hogan, potentially being your last 2 standing. Now, the question is, if that happens, how do I choose at that point? Because, yeah, Hogan Series 1 has the advantage of being an original figure, but then this has the advantage of being both characters in one. So that's why it's so frustrating doing this tournament, because I love all of these figures for different reasons. So it's so difficult to make a selection. So John, one of the guys who I bought a ton of Remco figures from. So obviously Russell, I bought like 10 million AWA Remco figures, and when I was doing the AWA Remco tournament, I think out of like the 10,000 AWA Remco figures that I had, customs and whatnot, probably 90% of them came from Russell, but a good chunk of them, I would say, I don't know, the other 10% or so, 9% or so came from John. And anyways, John, he on Facebook, he's doing his own little Remco tournament, and he's posting every 2 pictures, and so and so versus so and so, and we're just going on there, we're voting for whoever we want, and every day he's coming out with a new matchup. Not no drawn out video like this, just, hey, here's a picture of the 2 figures, who do you like? And that's how he's doing his matchups until it gets to the end, and then, hey, here's your winner, here's the championship belt on the figure. I'm like, bam. Could I potentially do something like that in the future with the LJN tournaments or any of the other action figure lines? Maybe. It would definitely be a whole lot easier than filming 45-minute videos every single day, but I really like it. I really enjoy these videos, though. I mean, I could probably do that instead of on Facebook, probably do that on like the YouTube community page, but the same enjoyment that I got from the Hogan versus Bundy matchup, I have with this particular battle. The advantage that Hogan had over Bundy the first time around, however, Warrior doesn't necessarily have over this particular Bundy. Now, obviously, I just described a ton of advantages that particular Warrior does have over the original Series 1 Hogan. So, with those particular advantages, yes, a lot of leg ups over Bundy, but that is over original Bundy. This is upgraded Bundy. That's over not only original Bundy, but even custom Bundy. But this particular custom Bundy, again, I don't just refer to this as custom Bundy. Again, I put that extra emphasis, upgraded. You still got original Bundy, but you're swapping out the positioning of the arms, right? It's not just Bundy. It's King Kong Bundy meets SD Jones. You take that perfect SD Jones fighting pose and you put it on a King Kong Bundy figure, which is already one of the most perfect, most enjoyable playable action figures. And when I make the argument that is this the most perfect LJN figure ever made, how can it not be? Perfect grip, perfect weight and size and height. Look, a perfect bad guy. I mean, this is a bad guy that you can use in any match against any good guy that you want. This isn't just a match you could have against Hogan 10,000 times over and never have a boring match. I don't care if you're 8 years old sitting down right now and having that match. I promise you, right now, if I wanted to sit down, you have no idea how many times I've looked at these figures doing these tournaments, how many times I've held these guys in my hands. I'm like, I am dying to like sit down and have wrestling matches with these guys. That's how enthusiastic I am about you actually playing with these guys. Now, I've talked about in the past, I just don't have those memories of how they actually wrestled in real life. So like I don't have the knowledge of like their moves and stuff like that. So if I were to sit there and play with them, it would like it would just be awkward. So I don't, but I want to. I really do. I really want to enjoy using these. I want them to be more than just display or be more than just art for me. I want to actually be able to actually enjoy, actually utilize them more than, like I said, I want them to actually be more, I want them to be what they're used for, which are toys, right? So, especially something like this which is absolute perfection. And when I take these two perfect figures, I mean, every time you get like two figures together, you just kind of like, just kind of see how they mesh well together. You get those two perfect poses together, and you just kind of like see how they mesh, and they just fit so perfectly together. I don't know, man. This is an impossible match. This is literally, there is no wrong answer here. Upside. Ultimate Warrior was a semi-finalist in my first tournament. Downside. He was a round 3 elimination in my second tournament. Both times he was eliminated by Bruiser Brody. That tells me that he is not capable of defeating Bruiser Brody if he makes it to the finals. Now, it is possible. Hypothetically, let's say Colonel Mustafa faces off against Bruiser Brody, and he wins. And then it's the finals, and it's Warrior against Colonel Mustafa. Warrior could beat Colonel Mustafa. Just because Warrior can't beat Bruiser Brody doesn't mean he can't beat Colonel Mustafa. If Colonel Mustafa could beat Bruiser Brody. Or Colonel Mustafa can literally beat every single figure that's on the shelf. And literally be the best figure that I have. But I just don't want to risk it. This is the upgraded King Kong Buddy's first time in the tournament. Warrior has already lost twice to the same figure. The figure that's already won this tournament twice. I think that this is one of those pieces that literally could give Bruiser Brody a run for his money. And yes, I will always say that this is a figure I will always argue can do the same, but when push comes to shove, he does lose to him. And Bundy, I feel like the sort of excitement that I get, the sort of happiness that I have when I hold this figure, it's weird. I don't get that sort of. I just kind of talking about it right now. I don't get that happiness or that excitement, that cheery glisten in my eyes and smile on my face when I hold the Bruiser Brody figure. At least I don't think so. I mean, maybe you guys see it when I talk about Bruiser Brody or have the figure in my hand, but I don't think I've ever noticed it. But I've definitely noticed it when I hold this figure in my hand. So maybe it's because it's a newer figure and it's like a newborn baby. If you're a parent, you're gonna love all your kids equally, right? But there's something special about a newborn baby because it's new, it's fresh, and because they're the youngsters, they're a baby. They need you more than someone who's 8 years old, who's 16 years old. You're 16 years old. You don't need your parents. I mean, you can take care of yourself, but you're a newborn baby. You're dependent on your parents for survival, right? So, I kind of feel the same way about this. It's fresh, it's new. it excites me a little bit more than something I've owned for 3 years. King Kong Bundy is going to defeat the Ultimate Warrior. And of course, my tags are all messed up, so I have to rearrange. Hopefully, I got them in the right order. Barry Windham. I think this is correct. Barry Windham versus Colonel Mustafa. I know where I'm going to go with this match, but it's a tough one. So, I'm not going to... This is another one of the... Like Bruiser Brody and just like Nickel and Dime. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Colonel Mustafa is easily going to be my selection for this battle. But, once again... I'm not just simply going to hold up the figures and say, hey, he won, and that's it. I am going to talk about him for a little bit because Barry Windham, now obviously with WCW Galoob, I had 7 figures as a kid. Barry Windham was not one of those figures. So Barry Windham is not one of those figures that gives me nostalgia or have any history with. Now, when I started collecting figures 3 years ago, and I got the Barry Windham figure, like, oh my god, this is like an absolutely perfect figure. And it blended it beautifully with the Sid Vicious figure. And it is possible that if I actually had the Barry Windham Galoob as a child, that could have potentially been the most perfect, most playable figure. Like, I could have potentially loved that figure more than Sid Vicious. It's possible. It is a fantastic, perfect, playable figure. Just like your Greg Valentine figure. They're basically the same figure. Okay? I don't know if Barry Windham... Like, he doesn't seem to ever do really well in my tournaments. And it's not that it's a bad figure and it gets eliminated very easily. It's that he just seems to go up against the wrong competition. Like, I feel like... in either like my favorite random treasure tournaments or even my favorite LJN tournaments, I always feel like he goes up against like Sid Vicious in those tournaments. And Sid Vicious, nostalgia, I love the playability of the figure. I'm gonna choose Sid Vicious over Barry Windham every time. And either second round, third round, fourth round, whatever, and he's gone. And it's a shame because Barry Windham, to me, he belongs in the 5th round every time. He is a 5th round figure. If it's 7-round tournament, he belongs in the 5th round, maybe even the 6th round. And this is an 8-round tournament, 5th round, even 6th round. With the right matchup, he could have been in the 6th round of this tournament. But going up against Colonel Mustafa, Colonel Mustafa is beyond elite figure. I've always said elite are you're basically your top. If top is your number one figure, it's way above your top figure, and this is an incredible piece. I love that Ram Treasures has started doing the Galoob 2-ups. Galoob, after all, a lot of the figures are kind of meshed after the LJN line. A lot of the same poses and all that, so it kind of makes sense. I'm glad that Barry Windham got a chance to have a very solid run in this tournament. And he actually did a lot better, had a much more thorough run in this tournament than even Sid Vicious. So, kudos to him in this matchup, in this tournament. But Colonel Mustafa, when I talk about the smiles that pop on my face when I talk about the figures, upgraded King Kong Bundy makes me happy when I talk about that figure, right? Colonel Mustafa is one of these figures that make me happy when I talk about it. I didn't really know a lot or even care. I don't think I knew Colonel Mustafa was Iron Sheik when I was a kid. Maybe I did, but I don't think so. I'm almost certain I didn't know that he was the same person. But like I said, I don't have those type of recollections, right? And if I didn't know, I mean, I think it definitely would have helped me appreciate Colonel Mustafa a whole lot more. But he was just an Iraqi soldier, right? We as Americans were at war with Iraq, so he was just he was the enemy essentially, bad guy. Didn't care for him. Um, but this figure in general, this figure is so well crafted, absolutely perfect. And it's not like it's a resin figure, right? This is an all rubber figure. They just do whatever the heck they do customize this figure, and just built clothing and particles on top of this figure on an actual Iron Sheik figure to create all this. And I don't know how they did it. Again, I'm not a customizer, but all the intricate details that went into creating the cords and the braids and just the ribbons and metals, just everything that went into this is absolute perfection. So insanely good. Like, my mind is blown at how good this figure is. If this figure was made by Random Treasures and I had to pay $130, $150 for this figure, I would not bat an eye to buy this figure. Random Treasures, here's my money. Thank you so much. Big old smile on my face. Please, take my money. I will get me some hanger wires, pin it to my about put the biggest smile on my face in the world, because this would have been worth all of the money in the world. And this cost me like $20 freaking on Mercari, man. Okay, this is like this has got to be the greatest purchase ever. That's why the guy that I bought all of these figures from off Mercari, Hulk $01, was it 0125? It's been a minute since I've talked about his screen name, but Harvey Snuts. That's why I've recommended him, because when he actually sold his stuff on Mercari, he actually works with you and actually gives you good prices and stuff. So that's why I've talked about his site on Mercari. I don't think he's added any new stuff. Otherwise, I would have bought a whole lot more from him since then. But I don't think he's updated anything new since. But it's a shame. I've been looking for more LJNs for the collection, but one of my absolute favorite pieces ever. And Colonel Mustafa may not even win this tournament. Bruiser Brody may be a 3-peat champion at the end of this tournament. Big Boss Man may finally get his just dues and finally win this tournament. Hulk Hogan, somebody that's the Series 1 original, someone that's never made it out of the first round, may finally see himself as tournament champion. Because I may not have the strength to eliminate my favorite wrestler and iconic LJN original figure. If he seems to make, I've said, if he made it out round 5, I probably would not be able to remove him from this tournament. We're talking about probably the greatest action figure ever made. This right here, this pose, the only flaw is he does not have a good play pose. You can say, well, okay, where is the accessory? Those aren't necessary. I mean, they're a nice bonus, but I mean, you could say, well, he's got a nice cord. I mean, it's a built-on accessory. You could say beret, it's a built-on accessory, but if you want your accessory, they're right there. the Dragon Steamboat resin figure, the Bundy figure. That Bruiser Brody is still impossible to see how any figure could potentially beat him. Zeus from Random Treasures, like, just talking about these figures, my mind is blown. Like, how do I make these decisions? Like, every single one of them deserved to win this tournament. So I look at this figure, I'm like, how, if this guy doesn't win, I mean, it's definitely a deserving piece. But he is, after all, one of my strongest candidates, right? But Colonel Mustafa is moving on to round 6. This was, for me, a no-brainer. Last matchup is going to pit from Random Treasures, Animal, going up against, from Raider Nation, their variant of Andre the Giant. So, a few days ago, I did the review video for the Series 8 Big Rubber guys, and that included the new Legion of Doom with spikes. And one of the things I highlighted on Hawk was the writing on the pants with the buckles, right? Now, the thing was, it was on Hawk, but it was not on the Animal figure. Animal did not have the buckles. But when you look at Animal, or you look at Hawk of Random Treasures figures, it doesn't matter. Straight black pants, no buckles right there on the boots. And I've said this 1,000 times, and I will probably always highlight this aspect. The regular red Legion of Doom figures from Random Treasures, the boots on those figures, slap those boots on these figures. Take the graphics on those boots or on those pants and put those on these figures. Have these chest plates, keep the face paint and all that, play pose. For example, on Animal, you may have created the most perfect figure. Because the play pose, I mean, it's very similar to that of Zeus. I mean, it's fine. It's not the greatest, Hulk Hogan type play pose, right? But it's more than serviceable. You could still use it as a serviceable, playable wrestling action figure, right? Looks fantastic. And face paint is awesome. The spikes, perfect. Name recognition, a beloved, one of the most beloved tag team wrestlers ever. And you add those boots and pants from the Legion of Doom onto these variants of Legion of Doom, onto these AWA Road Warrior types. If you blend those two figures into one, you would have created something special. You would have created something flawless. But because it's so, I guess the bottom half of the figures are just so basic, that's what hurts these figures. But I was very surprised to find that both versions of the Road Warriors that Legion of Doom are both in round 4. I guess I really wasn't paying attention. And once I saw that they were both in round 4, I'm like, okay. And I was able to push both of them into round 5. I'm like, sweet. Now, Hawk was eliminated earlier in this round. And now you've got Animal going up against the Raider Nation's Andre the Giant. Back when I was doing my, I believe between round 2 and round 3. So I said between round 1 and round 2 I was going to do a top 10, and I didn't do it, but I definitely did. I did it between round 2 and 3. I chose 10 figures that I thought was going to have a good chance of winning this tournament. And this figure didn't quite make the top 10, but I pulled him because I thought I wanted him on my top 10 list. So there were like 3 extra figures I had off to the side, and if I had to keep going, I think I would have had him at like number 11, maybe number 12. And I think around 11, around either round 3, round 4, when Sid Vicious was eliminated, I'm like, you know what? I guess that means he steps into my 10. This was so well done. From Mark Hackenberg, I had that Series 1 Andre, right? And I saw this Jack's Pacific Classic Superstars with Andre with the afro and the blue trunks and the red boots, right? And when I got that from Mark Hackenberg, I'm like, hell yeah, that's exactly what I want. And then later on, I saw this version from the Raider Nation. I'm like, I gotta get it. I gotta get this piece. And of course, I got that extra giant version from with the black strap too. So I'm like, you know, let me pick up both Andre figures. But that head sculpt is so odd and uniquely good. Kind of like a golem a little bit, but the head is so freaking amazing. And the paint is amazing. Dual colored boots. This is a classy figure. Great fighting pose, of course. I thought because of the head, I thought it was a Series 1 when I first got it. Until you actually look at the arms and realize, now that's an actual Series 2 Andre. And, you know, it's a rubber figure and all. And this is a splendid piece. Issue with the Andre. I don't think Andre wins this tournament. In fact, I don't think any Andre the Giant wins my tournament. Based on the simplicity of the design, it looks fantastic. I think it's a perfect figure. But like I said, it's definitely eye popping. The colors definitely jump out at you, right? Bright color scheme. It's just not enough color scheme, right? Where you definitely have the flashiness of the colors here. This is amazing. But that head mold that they put on this figure is incredible. He definitely has the play pose, and the size of Andre, of course, is always immensely good. The fighting pose on Animal here is definitely improved upon based on what, you know, the Ken Patera pose that you get from the regular Legion of Doom version. The Spikes edition is amazing, and the face paint is awesome. It hurts with the plain boots and pants. So this is another one of those matchups that goes back and forth. There's really no wrong answer. If I choose Andre, I'm basically going off of the head and the play pose. But I don't think he wins this tournament. I don't think he has any chance whatsoever of winning this tournament. I basically give him a 0.05% chance. 0.05, so what is that? That's like not even half of a percent of a chance. If I say 0.5% chance, let me change it to 0.5%. Okay? Let me at least give him half of a percent of a chance. 0.5% of a chance of winning. Animal. I don't think Animal wins this tournament either. And even though I probably would rate his chances of winning this tournament a lot higher, 6%, 10%, I don't know. I would actually argue that I would actually enjoy Andre a lot more. So it's so annoying because they're both great figures. I'm going to go with Andre the Giant. I just enjoy the figure more, to be honest. it's one of those scenarios where, you know, like I said before, house burning down, which figure are you reaching for? I'm probably reaching for animal, but even though I, as I said, if I were to give a percentage of which figure I would think would have a better chance of winning this tournament, I would give this figure so much more of a higher percentage of winning, where I basically say that this chance of winning is pretty much non-existent. I just like the figure, and I just want to give it another chance of moving forward. So, Andre is going to move on to round 6. And that is it. That is my 4 matchups. And 45 minutes for 4 matchups. Not bad, not bad. Considering that 3 matchups are doing 40 minutes. So, all right, guys. Thank you for watching. That does conclude round 5. Round 6, round 7, and round 8 should only be about 1 video per. So, and we're probably going to stick with this backdrop nonetheless. We're not going to be moving anywhere. But as always, thank you for watching. And next week, most likely Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, unless something changes, unless I get some new figures in for review, more than likely Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll do round 6, round 7, round 8, and close out the tournament. So that's the plan. Thank you for watching, and talk to you in the comments. See you in the video, the next video. Take care, everybody.